Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome to the Freedom Stories podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Fury. And on this podcast, if it's your first time joining us, you showed up to the show that is all about people's freedom story, where they're walking us through their journey through life, where the Lord has really opened the door to freedom to them. And I'm so excited to introduce you guys to today's guest. He is a brother that I'm finally getting the chance to meet kind of face to face. It's my brother George Moore. We're going to go ahead and invite him on here to the show. George Moore Jr. There we go.
Yeah, I forgot to put the junior on there, man.
That's okay. That's okay. I was going to ask you about your pops, but we'll get into all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But you guys, this brother is doing some amazing work here in Lake County in the Waukegan area in regards to trying to help folks that have been incarcerated get back into society and re-enter as a re-engaging citizens, or however language he'll put it. But we're going to ask him about that and so much more. So George, welcome to the podcast.
Man, thank you, man. I love the fact that you invited me, man, because you could have invited anybody. I love the fact that my brother Matt Thornton was on before me, and that's my guy, that's family. And I just love your name, Pastor Fury. So you know what I'm saying? I'm on with Pastor Fury right now. So I want y'all to know that. So I'm excited, man. Thank you so much.
Oh man, I'm super blessed, and I can't wait for us to continue to connect more in the future. But before we get into the future, let's go back into the past a little bit and dive into who George Moore is, and really I want to know. Let's take me back to the beginning. I know I said I was going to ask about your pops a little bit, but not even so much that specific. But what how can you describe maybe your family life and your upbringing as a young man, and specifically to what level that related to your faith as a child, if there was any?
Wow. First off, good question. How do I start? My faith as a child would start with my grandmother. I'm currently living in, it's my house, but my grandmother's house. It was passed down to me. Same city, North Chicago. My upbringing is the same as any young man that would be living in this environment, that would live in this environment. And my grandmother took me to Mount Sinai Baptist Church, and my mother was not able to. She was working, of course. Grandmother took me. Pops was doing his thing. Neither one of them was what we call saved. Right. And so she took me to church, and she was my introduction to Jesus. I was a good boy. You know, I was a good little boy. You know, I went to Mount Sinai. Bishop Solomon Smith, he was pastor at that time. You know, I was bad in the sense of, you know, like kids would be. You know, I'm making airplanes in church and doing like everybody else was. But I was no different than any other child coming out of the city of North Chicago. And it was a beautiful thing that she introduced me to the Lord, and, you know, and God bless her soul. She was the one who helped me to understand what faith was just by how she lived. She wasn't perfect, but she was the one who introduced me to Jesus. And from then on, I lived in North Chicago. I say North Chicago because I lived in Waukegan too, but North Chicago is where I was born, because obviously Waukegan does not have a hospital. And so everybody from Waukegan or North Chicago who lives in Waukegan, you were born in Waukegan, but you're from North Chicago. That's how it works.
Right.
We lived in, you know, anybody knows anything about North Chicago and about this region. You know, we lived out here and I was part of Pee Wee's North Chicago Flames, you know, trying to be a little football player, didn't do too well. I was a center. Just doing, you know, goofy stuff that you did at Neal Junior High. And then my mother took me to California because my parents were divorced. And so everything that happens with a divorced family when you're young, I got pictures with them getting married with, you know, me as a child. And then, you know, they were together, and then next thing you know, they're not. And then I have to grow up with that and everything that comes with it. And so she wanted to get out of here. We lived in Cinnamon Lake Towers when we left, and she moved to California. That's when life changed for me.
So she moved to California, not you and her, just her?
Just me and her.
Oh, you and her. Okay.
Yeah. And my father was here. And so, you know, with not having a father in the home, with you getting, you know, bigger than your mom and thinking you're somebody that you're not, things happen. And I ended up in California. and and doing things that, from Hayward to Oakland and going back and forth because they would send me back each summer between, I would go to school here, then go to school there. So I was meeting new friends and losing friends. I was used to losing friends, whether it be by death or whether it be by just you have to move. So I was used to letting people go, and that was my upbringing. And and so I was influenced a lot by California and living in the Bay Area, and influenced by North Chicago. Those are my stomping grounds.
All right, man. There's so much that I'm already connecting with. As soon as you started talking about, your grandmother being your kind of spiritual foundation, if you will, that was my story as well. It was my grandmother that made sure we were in church every Sunday, and my parents got divorced when I was younger and stayed with my moms, most of that time. Now, I didn't move out of state, but as far as the disconnection from my father, I mean, he could have been across the world for as much as it mattered as far as our relationship there. I wonder to what degree now you said your father wasn't in the physical location. Did you guys continue to have any sort of real relationship during your younger kind of California years, or was it really sporadic, or how would you characterize that? Not to get too much into you.
No, I don't know, Pastor Fury. This is just for you, breaking news, man. Okay. I'm gonna tell you some stuff that a lot of people don't know. My name is actually Dante Moore.
Oh wow, okay.
It's George Moore, but it's Dante Moore too. Because when I got to California, I had this thing where my father wasn't there, and I didn't know, and so I began to resent him. And I heard that he was doing well, out here in Illinois, and I wasn't doing well. So, and he wasn't there obviously for my high school years. And that's when it was very turbulent for me. And so that's when I changed my name. First of all, I thought it was corny. I thought the name George was corny anyway. I asked my mom, I said, like, what would you have named me? And she said, Javon Dante Moore. So I said, Javon, I'll go with Dante. So that was my middle name. And I went, and she went with me, and we changed my name on my social. So now everywhere I go, people don't notice I have an alias. So I'm also done. So all through my high school years in the Bay Area, in Richmond, California, and Oakland, I grew up as Dante. Even when I came back here, my family, because I wouldn't go by anything else, they would call me Tay or Dante. So I began to be Dante for years. And so my relationship with my father was not that great because he wasn't there and he couldn't be. He's miles away. So across the state, across the country. And so therefore I changed my name, and that's where and I didn't know years later, now that I in my right mind, I found out what George means. It means industrious. It means farmer. And that's what I literally do. I sow seeds in the ground and watch people, grow as God waters and gives the increase. So that's a whole nother story. So I got an alias from me not being with my father.
Yeah, so it's what's interesting that you said that, and it's like it can't be ironic. When I was saying that, what was going on in my head was the identity issues that I had growing up that were related to, not really having my father around. And I didn't want to just like dive right in talking about identity issues. And then you literally talk about changing your identity.
Yes. And that's what happens with most of the clients I have, with young men and young, even women. That father not being there is a huge deficit.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what'd you say? Javon Dante Moore now is growing up, and you're in high school in California. I know part of your story involves things turning to a different direction I don't know. It goes bad. So walk us through a little bit of like the acceleration of maybe some of the darkness or the issues that you fell into and what kind of happened there.
Yeah, I think that you as a young man or woman, you camouflage into your environment. You have to survive. Yes. You don't have to. God bless those who are strong and don't drink, don't cuss, don't smoke. And I didn't have that discipline. And so, in Oakland, The Panthers were heavy. You know, I wanted to be a Muslim. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I lost grandma's training. I went further away from that and got into, you know, from Hayward, California on, especially out here is when I first got involved in gangs. Yeah, and then, you know, you either had to be a vice lord or a GD out here in, you know, North Chicago. My cousins were picking sides, so I picked a side. And then
So
you go out
when did you come back from California to North Chicago?
every summer. I would go back.
Oh, you would go back and forth. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
sometimes they would switch the school years, so I was all over the place. And so I was heavy with them hanging out here, and then I went out there, and the gang culture is different out there unless you're in LA. And so with that being said, like, you know, there was DGF that I got involved in, some other gangs that, you know, they're like known on the West Coast, not like the Crips and Bloods, but they're known. And the issue was, I just really, you know, I just got in the streets as far as like everybody else was. We sold drugs, you know, sold dope. We, you know, carry guns, not because we was big time gangsters or anything like that. It's just what you do from the neighborhood.
Right.
You know, and so, and that was furthest from grandma's training, you know. So then I got shot at. I've been involved in a couple of drive-bys. And so some things happened that you see on TV. And I really believe I was mimicking TV because I wanted to be a rapper and a DJ and all that. All of us wanted to be, you know, wanted to get out of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to, every time you walk outside, you don't know if you're going to make it home. That nobody wants that. So if I could be a big time rapper, you know, I live in Richmond, you know, and so I lived in, you know, in Oakland. I lived in places where, you know, everybody's independent and rapping and stuff. So I'm like, and they're making it Ep4 and all these other masterpieces. So I'm like, man, I want it. So anyway, you go by what you see.
Yep.
And so that's basically what happened. And I began to go further and further and further into that lifestyle to the point where, you know, it even when I had a job, I was still selling dope on the side. So I mean, you know, it was
just what you did.
It was, yeah, but it was, and that is actually, I can understand now more than ever, you know, when somebody says I'm trapped, I live in the trap. It's your environment. If you put this person in Lake Forest or another environment, they'll be a totally different person.
Yeah.
So that's what basically happened to me.
And like one of the things that I find interesting that still just connects with me is you were talking about those that blend into their environments and those that, you know, by the grace of God have the ability to stand firm. And I know I was one of those blending into my environment. And I guess I just had different circumstances that I was in. But for me, I know it kept showing up as far as I was, I didn't know it at the time, but I was out looking for some of that acceptance and belonging that I didn't feel like I had, you know. Come on, going back to my daddy issues, you know. And as a result, I think I kept finding myself in situations where I was compromising what I had learned in order to fit in order to belong and be accepted. And I think that might be one of those pieces that helps to shape the difference between those that blend and those who can stand firm, is the strong sense of who they are and whose they are, and that love.
That's such a powerful. You said we only got 45 minutes, brother. Don't do this because that's a huge issue, that acceptance issue. That for me, I was a junior. I wanted to be like my dad. You know, honestly, you know, we were far away. I really was crying out for him. And so when I came out here, and even when I was on the phone, I would act up because I was acting up trying to get his attention.
Yep.
And we talk about, to this day, I did all kind of goofy stuff. I had turned my family's house into a vice lord house in the basement for my birthday, and they didn't know it. And a whole bunch of GDs came through and raided it. And I'm like, I'm trying to get his attention. So, you know, I come through. I come on the back porch on Argonne one day at his house on Argonne, and I told him, I said, you know what, you know, I came out with my hat cocked and sagging and whatnot, and you know, man, I'm in the gang. Like he was chilling, you know, on the back porch smoking cigarettes, and like I come out, yeah, I'm in the gang, you know, and it's like and he looked at me, and to this day, I don't know why I did that. I think I did it to, I don't know, get his attention, and you know. I was proud of what I was, and he looked at me and said, "That is the worst thing you could have ever told me in your life."
Mm.
He walked away from me.
Oh, wow.
And that was that was not what I expected. I don't know what I
Right.
expected actually, but I think we as young people, we cry out for attention.
Mhm.
A lot of the young people is just like me. You're crying out. You
Yeah.
angry, you upset, but really, if you had that attention, if you had somebody
Mhm.
that believed in you, they could
Yeah.
speak into you. That's all. Again, we call them cliques now, but that's all those groups are. They draw you in. They're a surrogate family.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
somebody make you feel like, hey, I got your. I'll never forget, man. Somebody 17 years old and you 14, they tell you ain't nothing gonna happen to you. Not while
Mm.
I'm living. What? You know what I mean? And so that's what you look for, and that's those are those. If we all want to be accepted, all of us.
Amen. Amen. So, so you're going through that journey of acting out and finding your way into gangs and drugs selling and all that sort of thing. What, where did you get to a place now? I know there's some point. I'm pretty sure I know that there's some point where you end up getting incarcerated. Uh,
Yeah.
what happened? What happened that led to that? And talk to us a little bit about what that whole experience was like and the impact it had on you.
True. So basically, that wasn't the first time I went to jail.
Okay.
I went to jail in California for illegal cell phones and stuff like that, and they caught me. But this time, going back and forth between California and Illinois, I came out, and every time I come out here, my sister will hook me up with some females, and that was every time. And
Mm.
so this particular time, she hooked me up with one that I never saw before. And when I did see her, by the time I saw her, she was downstairs and nobody was at the house but me, my sister, and her. And
Mm-hmm.
like that was my first time seeing her. I thought she was somebody else. She came over and told me what her age was on the phone when I was talking to her, my sister. So when she got over there, she was not that age, but she was like,
Mm.
"Hey, let's get down." And she looked like she was ready, whatever. So something happened that didn't happen. What I mean by that is there were things that were said that happened that didn't happen, but something
Right.
did happen. And because something did happen, to put it plain and simple, I tell people check IDs. If
Mm.
you're young people, I tell my young guys right now, I'm telling you, because you don't know. And so
Right.
anyway, we got caught up for that. When I say caught up, uh, the parents, they were kind of at odds of whether they should go with this or not. But they did. One of them did. And the other was not in agreement at first. So anyway, that's when, to make a long story short, that I was being indicted. And I said, wait a minute, I can't go down like this, especially for something like that.
Right.
I'd rather go for murder. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Don't
Yeah.
do me like that, because I watched Shawshank Redemption and all kinds of stuff on HBO. Don't do me like that, bro. And what
Yeah.
happened was that was crushing for me as a grown man. If you've been in my position, you would know that's a death sentence. And
Mm.
so me, I was like, man, I go to prison. Somebody try something, man, I'm gonna have to die, because I knew they would
Mm.
try something. So I said, wow, this is it. And so I end up saying, you know what? My grandmama told me what to do. And
Mm.
I said, I remember grandma. Now it's funny when I'm in trouble. Now I remember grandma teaching. And, you know, and then I
Yep.
remember the Lord, and then it just became real to me. It became real, so real that God's favor was all over my life. I had a church backing me. I had the community backing me. I had people telling me, "Yeah, this ain't right." For long story short, for 2 years, I fought that case, and
Mm.
in those 2 years, I became a minister. And it was just God. And then it got to a point where I didn't care.
Mm.
I would love to go back to California, but I didn't care. Me and my father, speaking to him, went back to California, packed up all my stuff. He said, we'll just stay down here now because I found my place in God. So I didn't have no
Mm.
intention of going back to California, even if I won the case. Long story short, I lost the case. And
Mhm.
I had men pray over me and lay hands on me. And the pastor told me, you're not going for punishment. You are going on a mission. And so that's the idea I went in. So when I went in there, I went with my head up and my chest out.
Come
And
on.
so it was my wife don't like me saying this, but it was fun. You know what I'm saying? It was actually yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you.
Yeah.
It was actually, and I found my father in that process. You know how the Bible says, we pray our Father. First thing you do in
Mhm.
a relationship, our Father. I found God as a father, not as some religious thing, you know what I'm saying, that
Mhm.
you're trying to do to get out of jail. And so I turned myself in anyway. I did 2 years and 3 months. Menard, Graham, Joliet, never went to PC. People that was in there know me. They out now. They know how I conducted myself. I stood
Mm.
strong in grace.
Mm.
And
Mm.
and it was a blessing. And I
Wow.
had I preached the gospel in there. I went from 2 people at my table to like 12.
Wow.
So we in the day room we was, so I mean, God gave me some testimonies out of there. I wrote a book while I was in there and came out, and I experienced prejudice not while I was in there. They loved me. Even my tattoos, they say, you involved in the gang in the shower, man, you plugged. And I said, what you never do, man, I don't do that no more. So the Latin Kings, everybody's like, what? You can't stop, but they gave me a pass. And
Wow.
so because you're living the life and we see you're not a con, so I conducted myself by the grace of God well, got out, and that's when I experienced prejudice.
Hmm.
How ironic that now it's people, you got lifers and people who committed heinous crimes will sit next to you. Now you get out and people feel like they're better than you and won't sit next to you, or
My God.
and so that's when I learned that there are people like me. Well, I didn't learn then. I started getting resources for myself and start fighting for myself to have an identity, and
Mhm.
to in the community, and to find, and God was blessing me. He took me from living with somebody that I had no place to stay to having my own vehicle, to have my own jobs, doing well. And then it's a long story with that. But for this portion of the segment, um, my life was changed. I came out on top trying to get resources for myself, and I end up finding resources for not just myself, but people like me.
Mm.
And
So
mhm.
no, go ahead. Continue.
No. And I was just going to say that that's my whole theme now. I'm going back to get me.
Yeah. So, oh man, there's so much in there. One of the things that you said that just strikes me not only heartbreaking, but even reminiscent of something a close brother of mine said. I don't know if you know, but Chewy Llanos, I mean, his government name is Jesus, but he out in Round Lake here.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I met him before. He was with my brothers from Frontline.
Yeah. So yeah, and now he leads Frontline
Mhm.
since Ricky is no longer at the helm there. And so he when I first met him and he walked into the church that I was one of the leaders of at the time, he's telling me a similar story, but I skipped something. He during that season he's getting saved by the Lord, and he goes and like tells the Latin Kings that he's no longer going to be a part of it, and it was about to be a whole thing. It was crazy. But the thing that I thought I was so blown away by is he started describing his life in church life since then to the life in the Kings, and he was like, I was told that there was this brotherhood, and I'm struggling to find that brotherhood, but I had it with the Kings. And that was the thing that was just breaking my heart, that we've got people that are um experiencing more in a way to an extent more of an acceptance and a brotherhood in these dark families, where there's more of a, I mean, there's no God in that, in regards to the surrendered life and living under his mercy. But when they come out and they go to the people that should be that, it's like not it at all. And I'm like, man, that was just breaking my heart. And so I'm so grateful that I get to be one of the few that are still, part of a brotherhood that he'd been looking for. But I'm like, man, what can we do in our churches? And we'll get to some of your thoughts in your own ministry. But I'm just going to ask you right now, like, as far as you see it, what do you think is something that needs to be changed in maybe the church culture or in the way that church has been done in some places where you yourself were like maybe not accepted, or maybe because I jumped to the church, you weren't necessarily talking about the church. I don't know when you talked about being
The church and the
discriminated against and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, the church in the world. One thing is for us is that the devil always disguises himself as the angel of light. And so he appears in what he does as something that you would want, something that's good for you. And so that's all that culture is. It makes you feel like you're a part of something. The church actually is the strongest bond that you could be a part of. And when I talk about the church, I'm not talking about the church building. I'm talking about the body of Christ.
Amen.
It's the strongest bond. The Bible tells us that you should lay down your life for one another. We're supposed to actually die for one another. So that is like, that's gang ties for real. If you really, I mean, what stronger tie can you have than that? I know many people say they would die for me, and then you get into a tight and you realize, oh, he ran.
Right.
So it's,
hey, Peter, get over here. Where you going?
Right. Yeah. Come out. We call. So, like, you that loyalty that we all look for, every man, everyone, we all look for loyalty. We all look to feel that God-shaped void within us, and God provides that loyalty through his family. And I would say that the church, all we have to do is be who we are, and that is to be the family. People are drawn to family. Our culture and legacy is family. We call people family when they come in. People have left saying, what? I feel like, you fed us. We're hospitable. When you come through as a guest, we're going to feed you. We're going to talk to you like you're one of us. I don't care what your position or title is. That is family. That's what people want. That's what somebody who's affiliated with, if you want to call it gang or clique or whatever, they want family. And that's what we provide. And that's I think the church can provide, whether it be through outreach, whether it be in the house of God. We just simply have to get back to family. And when you get to family, you don't discriminate. You got an uncle that tried to rob you, but we're going to still be at the barbecue eating with him because that's my aunt. Right. So it's like we, treat them like family, regardless. You my blood. We got the same DNA.
Hey, you guys, Cleo and I just wanted to interrupt this episode for a brief moment to let you know a little bit about the sponsor of the episode. That's right, it is Freedom Story Media. Freedom Story Media is all about telling your story. We know that it matters, and we want to help you tell it and achieve your goals. Freedom Story Media creates compelling videos, websites, and graphics so that you can experience freedom in life and in business. So why don't you go ahead and check it out? We can do videos for your website, for your company. We can build a website for your company. If you need a new logo or graphics, maybe it's even something small like a slideshow presentation for a wedding that maybe you're helping put together. If you got a media project, whether big or small, we'd love to help you out. Go to freedomstorymedia.com and find out more. Now, let's get you back to today's episode. Say bye, Cleo. All right, enjoy. Yeah. I love that, and I think there's a thing that we need to get past as the church is this kind of play family that this happens often, where it's like, oh yeah, we play cousins or whatever, but it's like no, we're not like family, like we actually are, like we are, like you and me right now, we are brothers. There needs to be that sense that you said that, like, man, if push came to shove, that you would show up versus walk away, And, I think that's one of the things that I've always struggled with, and I'm gonna get off of this, and we're gonna get into something else. That's one of the things I've always struggled with some of the ways in which I think people engage with the church these days, where it's more of an event and an activity
Wow.
versus a family where you can walk in and out of a church every Sunday in some places and not be seen or known. And how are you going to show up for somebody like a family member would, and how would they show up for you if you're not even known? So
wow. Hey, you know what? Now remember, we got 45 minutes if you want to do this.
You say what you gonna say, man, and then we'll move on. Because I sometimes I get in the problem where I just start going.
Yeah, hey, I'm with you. I'm gonna ride with you. So Bible says God sets the solitary in families. So those who feel alone, the only place to go for you is to a family structure. Even in the natural culture, the structure of things, you see that there, when the mob was the mob, there was structure. When they didn't operate as a family, there was no structure and it broke up. RICO cases have broken up gang families. Families, when they were structured, or gangs, when they were structured, they were powerful. Now everybody's renegade, running in cliques. They're not as powerful. There's more chaos. So it shows you, even on the natural end, first natural then spiritual, you're seeing that if there's no family, then we get chaotic. The structure is that we would dwell together in unity. And unity can't, it doesn't come from us just saying that, hey, we cool. It doesn't come from us going to Sunday service every Sunday, and then, we just, I'm ready to kill you over a parking space. You know what I mean? So, that you know what I'm saying? No, this is real talk. And so it's like, are we doing this, like you said, as an event? And so, or are we doing this as like we're going to be in the family of God? Then you start looking at people differently. Then you don't come to church asking what y'all could do for me. And then y'all ain't doing nothing for me. No, I come to serve. What can I do for you? That's what we go with Legacy. We go and say, look, we're mission work. We go to different churches. What can we do for you? We're not trying to perform. We're not trying to come in here. What can we do? And that is what draws people to say, wait a minute, these people say, what can we do for them? Or what can they do for us, rather? And I think that's the difference. It's walking in with a family heart and saying, I want to give you my heart and let's become family. And that's what makes a difference.
Amen. Amen, man. You done said a lot there. Whew. All right, we gonna get into legacy a bit before we spend our time talking about all sorts of stuff. So 2007, you launched. I think at the time it was called King and You.
Wow, you do your research, man.
Come on now.
The DJ Academics, what is this? Mad TV, what's happening with us?
So you launched King and You, and at that time, to what level was it largely different than what you do at Legacy? And what did at the ground level that look like for those first 8 years?
Wow, that's a jam-packed question because
Sorry.
King and You, all it was I took my poetry and I took my book writings and I put it all together and I made it a book. And the reason why it's called King and You is because when I first approached my wife the first night at CFFC Zion, I said, that's my wife, when I heard her in prayers, first time. And the next thing you know, I asked for the pastor for her number, called her the next day. When I talked to her, I said, I really feel inspired by God. I'm not calling you to date you. I'm calling you to court you for marriage.
Nice.
This was the first phone call.
My name is George, and we get married.
I want to marry you. So I would love to see her face on the other end. But but what I begin to do is I begin to disqualify myself. And I begin to tell her, listen, I went to jail for this. And listen, I'm trying to get my barber's license in the city, but right now I don't have it yet. And I'm staying with my grandma and all kind of stuff. I was just throwing, because I was used to being rejected. I had tough skin. So I said, let's get that out the way. If you don't want to do it, just let me know so I don't have to waste my time trying to talk to you.
Right.
If you're going to reject me now. And that she stopped me and said, wait, why are you disqualifying yourself? She said, I see the King in you.
Woo!
and And I said, and that's where the book came. I wrote on that
Mm.
because she helped me with my identity. She said, never let someone else see more in you than you see in yourself.
Oh man, come on.
And that changed my perspective on a lot of things, my
Wow.
rejection issues, my feeling inadequate, feeling like I wasn't the one, choose somebody else. I'm dirty, no one loves me, all that kind of weird, goofy stuff. That went out the door.
Yeah.
And so that is where King and You came from. And King and You got into the jails. Long story short, I became a chaplain at the Lake County Jail. My book was then put in the jail. The way I was able to get in there is because I wasn't a chaplain at the time. They said, well, just come in with your book, be a speaker. Went into all different tiers. And then they gave my own class. And the book got me into the jail. I waited
Wow.
7 years to get into the jail. They wouldn't let me in. The book got me in, and then finally started letting me do a Bible study, gave me my own class, and made me a chaplain. So
Wow.
so the book did a lot for me,
Yeah.
and that's and how the difference between the two is that the book was mainly about me
Mm.
and about
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and you, but legacy. What my wife and I, she came up with that name because we couldn't have children
Mm.
through a surgery. So we had this would be our child. So we call it legacy
Mm.
to pass down through generations, to pass God as generation. And this is a way for me to not just receive resources, but that somebody would get a resource and become a resource for other people. And so
Mm.
that's what legacy was. And that's where we, not just for people who re-entering back into society, but anybody who wants a second chance to,
Oh.
yeah. So that was the difference between the book and the work. And
Yeah.
and then we just combine them all too. And I have a book coming out soon called From Lockup to Legacy. And
Okay. Okay.
that is a whole nother story that we probably want to hold off on because that's going to take us to another hour. So, but
Right. Right.
yeah, but that's the difference between King and You and how it sprung into legacy.
Now, from the time that you were like developing legacy to now, I know I believe it was what 2015 when you started legacy officially, legacy reentry.
That's when we became official 501c3. Yeah.
Okay, you got your papers.
Yeah. Man, you do your homework, man. Okay.
I gotta know who I'm talking to really get
Yes,
at
sir.
the real questions, that I think would be helpful,
Yes, sir.
So with the time that you guys have been developing this, I know it hasn't all been a cakewalk, and I know you've been operating in the grace of God. But can you spend a little bit of time of sharing some of the challenges that you've had from the time that you've launched to? I mean, and let's not get into COVID. Like I know that was a challenge for everybody in different ways, but like even prior to that, like what are some of the roadblocks that you guys had, and maybe some of the ways that the Lord helped y'all through those?
Okay. Well, wow. We were broke.
Roadblock one. Yeah.
We were all on Facebook telling people to come get resources when we were going to the thrift store ourselves.
Mm.
Literally, we were shopping at the thrift store. She had a great job at Baxter. I felt this vision that we should leave corporate. I should leave cutting hair. I became a licensed barber, leave all that and do this full time. And we suffered for it. I
Mm.
volunteered with former inmates striving together for a couple of years, and just getting a feel, volunteering for someone else's organization, helping the formerly incarcerated, and in the process doing all that, we were hurting. Cars were getting repossessed. I went out. We got stories. I went out getting ready to go to work, and they're in the driveway taking the vehicle as I'm leaving. There's a lot of stuff that happened. So we, gas, everything. I mean. I did everything you could possibly do.
Mm.
Um, Different jobs, money, everything we tried to do. And plus it didn't help that my background. And so
Right.
it was really it was hard for us, but God has somehow blessed us with grace to do legacy, to still serve the community. The community didn't know.
Mm.
Only people that knew us knew.
Right.
But
Because like from the outside, the Lord's still making it happen. The
He's
Lord
making it
still,
happen. I was
yeah.
cutting hair at the barbershop and I was telling a guy about my vision. He was like, I don't believe in you, but I don't believe in your vision. If they did the time, they did the crime, they should do the time. but something about you, he didn't know it was Jesus. And so he just gave me $10,000.
Come on.
No, I'm not, no lie. In the bar,
Wow.
at the barbershop, everybody knows. He gave me $10,000, and that's what started. And that's where I got my first office from. With Charles Peanut Tillman. I was cutting his beard. We had a couple celebrities to come down here in North Chicago, and I was cutting his beard. And even though I cut him, actually, he was bleeding. I asked him, I said, man, would you be my keynote speaker?
Hey, let me put a Band-Aid on that, Peanut. Hold on.
It wasn't no bad. You had to really. It was bad, man. He was leaking. But I thought I lost him with that, and I said, could you come visit my office? And he came, and I'm like a pit bull that tastes blood. God showed me, if you tell your story, people will support, and people begin to support by me telling my story. So I told him about what I want to do. He came to the office, he said, I'll be your first keynote speaker. Here's a guy that's got a couple million, and he didn't charge me anything. Wow. And so I learned then, keep telling your story. And so it was rough for us and then I had to win the respect of the community. So every service that we did not charge. When Peanut Tillman, we had a packed house at the Greenbelt, packed. And my board was mad at me. I said, I'm not charging because I gotta let the community know that I'm not doing this for money. Yeah. So we suffered because we didn't charge for our events. We did everything to show the community that we have a good name. We're doing God's work. And so many people had done stuff in the community that it was like years. That was the hardest part, winning the trust of the community. And after about a decade, I feel like, we actually won the trust of the community and hearing the heart of people in corporate, in the hood, wherever. And then finally, that's when we were able to get into grants. Yeah. And I didn't want to go into that because I thought the government was, going to tell me I can't, you don't tell me that until I realized.
Yeah, don't say this, don't say that.
And I thought that's what it was, but that's not how it works. And so, we're able to do everything faith-based and do what we do and still get supported for the grants that we have. And they gave us a grant for the work that we were already doing because they saw you're already doing this work. They don't just give you. And when I say give you the grant, we had to work for the grant. We had to do. We never done grants before. We had to do all the paperwork.
I hear grant writing, like that's a whole profession that people write grants for people.
I want to shout out my wife because the anointing on her, she's never gone to school for it. She wrote the grants. And because getting on internet, so when people tell me, man, I don't want to, man, get your butt up, pray, because my wife didn't go to school for that. She didn't go to college. Everybody believes she did because she's so smart. Right. She got up there and just said, I'm going, and she stayed up late nights, and we were learning grant language, and I was like, what's the narrative? Oh, man, we got to put the narrative in. We got to know our demographic. Oh, my God. And we did it. Wow. And we got rejected, and we did it. We got rejected, and finally a grant came through, and ever since then, we have been getting grants. We got 13-member staff. We got 2 houses that we now own. We got another house that we're about to purchase, which is a building. We got 2 buildings that we own. We purchased another building. All this is because we suffered and we put the work in. We were doing the work for the community. And I tell the young people, do not complain. We never complained about all the people that wouldn't support us. I had my own family members knew I was suffering, wouldn't support. I didn't go to City Hall. I didn't go to anybody. I didn't go to the mayor. I didn't go to anybody and ask for. I asked for support, but now I didn't get it in a lot of areas. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna stop doing this. I'm not asking y'all for nothing. I'm not calling nobody. I will get up and do the work. And guess what? God sent people to us. That's literally how it happened. So when people say, well, we got this problem in the community, we'll get up and do something about it. Do something. What are they gonna do? No, we don't get out like that because you're teaching the youth to be problem-minded, not solution-minded. Got a big guy, God before us, who could be against us. If you open your mouth in my meeting talking about they need to, that means it's your burden.
Right. The reason you saying something is because God is giving you eyes to see it. So why are you doing something about it?
You want me to do it. That's why you saying it. You want me to do it. Oh, yeah, we need to do this. No, ain't no we. But yeah, that's literally our biggest struggle. And then I'll say one last thing. To go through all we went through, and I don't have enough time to say all the pain, suffering, tears, death, all the stuff we went through, blood. To have like 1 or 2 people, and it was literally 1 or 2 people, and I won't mention, to literally contact me and say, why you get that grant? I deserve that grant. And to literally attack you because they feel like you out here as a millionaire and how come I can't have it? That hurt me probably the most. I understand now. I'm okay now. But I expected, hey, we showed you, where all the money, we got the audits, we're doing what we're supposed to do. But to have people just because not like you because you're not doing the work, just not like you having a grant. And those things happen to us. We're over it now, but those things, the struggle and the fact that your own people, and there was only like a couple, literally, that disappointed us to say, wow. But that's the enemy. But we know God, greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And so I'm giving him all the glory. We got past that stage, but I see now when you try to come out the barrel, that the crabs will try to pull you back in.
Come on. Yeah. That, man, and I'm so blessed by just the story that you're sharing here. There's so many themes of family and community, but also the grace of God and his faithfulness that empowers y'all to persevere, and that you're not just sitting around waiting for things to be handed to you, but you are out there working and grinding and at great risk. And the Lord just continues to show himself faithful. That's a beautiful testimony in itself. With the final minutes here, I wanted to share, you've got this passage that you guys use as your mission passage.
I love you, man.
Bro, I'm always rocking with people that get that Isaiah out. We actually have a similar a verse that we go back to on a steady basis, Isaiah 61, but yours, Isaiah 42, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. The work that you're doing on a physical level as well as on a spiritual level, that the Lord is using y'all to set people free. And that's one of the beautiful things about your story. One of the reasons why I was drawn to it as I wanted you to be part of the Freedom Stories podcast. So I appreciate it. Now, I did want to show everybody before we get out of here. If you guys want to find out more information about what they're doing, you can go to Legacy Reentry Foundation.org. I think there's a lot going on that they got going on the website. It looks like they're a little under construction, but I'm sure you can donate there, which I'm sure would always be a blessing. But he ain't gonna beg you for it. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if you listen, if you're watching, be a part of what God is doing through Legacy Reentry. Don't just be somebody watching and applauding on the sidelines, but actually, be a part of what they're doing. And I had been a financial support, and I want to get back into that because the Lord just blessed me with some increase through my day job. And I believe in what y'all are doing. So you guys go ahead and check them out, Legacy Reentry Foundation.org. Is there anything else that you wish we had talked about that we didn't quite get to before we end the conversation here?
I have no regrets, none. I think you did an excellent job, excellent research, great interview. That website, it does say under construction because we're doing some things to it. It's going to be totally different, but it's fully functional right now. So if you go to it, everything's there. I just want to say thank you, man. I want to say thank you to you. You didn't have to put me on this platform. This is a platform that helps us to get our services out to people who may not know us. And also, I want to thank my wonderful family. Legacy fan. I am honored to pastor the mission that I pastor. These are some powerful young. We ain't that young, but I got some young people. I got some young people with me. Yeah, we young. Anyway, we are. But I love the people that I work with, that I serve with. And they are the ones who, when you see Legacy Reentry Foundation, you see George and Regina, please believe me, there's a whole army of people behind the mission that God has graced to do the work. So I want to acknowledge them and honor them. And of course, my wife, who is amazing, and she's the COO chief, whatever you want to call her. She helps me to pastor this mission. I love her very much.
Amen. You are blessed, my brother. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. I know this is really going to bless a lot of folks, and I hope that it's touching some hearts and people are going to respond to not just what you're saying, but really what the Lord is speaking to them in this conversation. And for you guys out there that are watching or listening, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of these episodes. We continue to bring you these conversations so that they can be a blessing to you and so that you can be inspired to be a blessing to others. And with that, we'll see y'all on the next episode. Peace.